Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, where we talk about video games, news, and there's a ton of it this week, and what's fun. I'm Max, and with me is someone who is standing on a stage wearing a black jacket to deliver this news to you, my co-host Sema. Hello there, Sema.
Yes, like everyone, I too am wearing a black jacket.
I was going to wear my black jacket today, but I did not. For one, because those black jackets are getting more and more stylish. So we'll show the 3 black jackets from the Xbox presentation in particular. They're the ones that seemed that Xbox division, Microsoft seems to be really hooked on the black jackets. So, and the jackets in general. So we'll show that. But yeah, boy, there was much more news than I expected to.
Yes, in fact, it was almost a full-time job just watching everything.
Right. So it's Summer Games Fest, and I guess the Xbox and the Ubisoft and the other things, I haven't even gone through all of them. There was like an indie showcase and a couple other things, but just
Yeah,
focused
I
on the big
haven't
ones.
watched everything that I intend to watch either.
The Xbox and the Ubisoft were technically part or associated. I mean, they're on the Summer Games
It
Showcase, Summer Game Fest
though.
page,
Yeah.
but they seemed pretty separate. And it was the feel from my perspective. Like when it started, when each of them started, they weren't like, "Hey, welcome to Summer Games Fest. This is the Xbox part of Summer Games Fest." It was an Xbox showcase that happened to be going on that Summer Games
Right.
Fest got to put in their list. But huge. I thought the Ubisoft one was a ton more than I expected. The Xbox one was a ton more than I expected. And there was some really good stuff out of just the Summer Games Fest keynote presentation. It was all just broadcast on YouTube, and it was pre-recorded for 90 or 100% of it. But still, very good. Tons of interesting things to see. Tons of news. Some of the news was actionable. A lot of the news and trailers is coming in 2025, but
Mhm.
really interesting things to see regardless. So that's what we're going to get into today. We were going to talk about Star Wars The Old Republic 7.5 story, but I think there's too much news for one. And for two, we did an informal poll last night, and not enough people have finished the story. I figured, okay, well then let's give ourselves a break. We'll talk about that story next week.
And that's fine too. I mean, fair because if you decided to start with something else and
Yeah.
that was recently dropped, you might not have gotten to the story yet.
And stretch it out. Enjoy it. Don't
Yeah.
rush and do it like content creators tend to do, like us. I'm looking at us, Sema. Uh, because it's to take it at your own pace. There won't be any more story content. They're on major quarterly releases. We could get surprised with a story beat in between, but I would expect the next story beat to come on the quarterly release, and then the big story update is going to be in the fall. So enjoy it. Take it at your own pace. There's plenty of other stuff to do. We'll talk about that we've been talking about, what we actually are doing. But enjoy your time with that. We also won't be talking too much about our hot takes and reactions to The Acolyte. I've only watched 2 episodes. The 3rd episode released yesterday. From what I hear, it's a doozy. So we'll see. I do have thoughts so far. I'm reserving a lot of judgment because I would like to see how it turns out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I want to give it
good
a
or bad.
chance.
I wouldn't say I'm too far in either direction right now. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing and I'm having fun. I'm rolling my eyes quite a bit. We'll maybe talk about that at some point. I have made notes. And we'll see how it shakes out. A lot of serial content like that needs a couple episodes to warm up typically. A lot of serial content like that often needs a whole season. Like Parks and Rec, I didn't really like season 1 very much, and I loved further seasons beyond that. So I'm going to give it some time. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of hot takes out there, and I think that's unfortunate that people will come to an ultimate conclusion after just, 1 or 2 episodes. So, but you can certainly have enjoy what you see, or have comments on what you've seen so far. Just don't act like you're judging the entire package.
I'm actually totally fine with people watching 2 episodes and deciding not to progress because, I
Sure.
mean, it's your time.
Yeah.
And if you're not having fun, then don't watch it. But that doesn't mean it's bad
Right.
necessarily.
Right.
Just
And yes.
you don't like it.
And and your opinion on the first 2 episodes is a completely valid conclusion based on your opinion on the first 2 episodes. That isn't, and no one should act like they now have a final
Definitive,
conclusion,
yes,
definitive conclusion on the entire product.
right.
In the same way, as we go through all of this game news, don't
I'm
watch
totally judging from the trailers.
2 minutes of a trailer and decide you now have a summary rating on an entire game that's coming out in 2025. Because that's going on a ton right now, too. I think Dragon Age in particular is getting a bunch of people writing multi-page reviews because they saw bits of a trailer and have conclusions on how the whole game is. And they're even basing that on incorrect premises on what Dragon Age has even been in the past. But uh, we live in a world where hot takes get the clicks. That's why we do not get the clicks. Because we are not doing the hot takes. Summer Games Fest, though, let's get into it. It was a ton. We'll start with just the basic Summer Games Fest. There was so much that I ended up and Sema ended up just pulling out a couple of the major. Oh wait, here let's play this.
Good news, everyone!
We ended up just pulling out the major things that caught our eye. Remember, we tend to play and like and talk about the most RPGs, MMOs, survival games, that kind of games. So you're going to see a big focus on that. We will comment on a couple other things that really caught our eye, and we'll be skipping over a ton too because it's way too much. We would be here for 6 hours just to review what we saw in the 3 presentations that we looked at, not the 12 possible presentations that were even out there. First up, though, the most important story that Sema tracked down. What was up with the dog? So Sema, tell me what's up. What was up with the little dog?
Right, so there was a dog just kind of patting around at the Summer Game Fest with his owner, and he was just there, and people came up and they were petting him, and so this Kotaku writer decided to get to the bottom of who this dog is, and basically his name is Trooper, and he came to the show with his owner, and yes, you can pet him, and a lot of people who were there did pet him, and including Phil Spencer came out at one point or came by and stopped and petted, got down and talked to him on his level. He's like a little mix Jack Russell Terrier Chihuahua dog that this guy rescued, and they've just been like soulmates ever since. And his name, Trooper, came about because he didn't want him to have the name that the shelter had given him because he felt like that symbolized the traumatic time in the dog's life that should now be over. And so he was talking to the dog and saying, "You're such a little trooper." And when he said the word trooper, his ears perked up. And so it's like the
Okay.
dog named himself.
Oh, that's so
I
nice.
know. It's just the sweetest article ever. So if you need a dose, read about Trooper.
Now this is I was just thinking as we're going through this. This is dangerous. You know that future shows people are going to be trying to bring their pets and make them stars.
Right, right. And this dog right here wasn't on a leash, and I just don't do that. I mean, because it was
Never.
successful here, just don't
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
a really bad idea. Because dogs, it's stressful. It's stressful for animals.
Yes. Yes.
So even if it's well behaved, or like service dogs, they're always on a leash, know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're very well trained and licensed. I don't think Trooper was licensed.
What's cool about
Maybe.
the last thing I'll say about this is the owner of the dog, when Phil Spencer came out, got to have a picture of himself with Phil Spencer and his dog. Like,
That's
oh my
crazy.
God. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And he was so happy about that. So he's not only a cool dog dude, but he's also plays games. And that's why he was there.
Sweet. The dog, that is. The dog plays games.
Right, of course.
So everybody knows. Yeah. Yeah. So that was story number 1. And then we got into, and this was on the 7th. What was this? This was Friday? Saturday?
Yes,
Friday?
Friday.
So
Friday.
this was stretched out over the course of a couple days. The big kickoff, sort of the keynote, the Summer Games Fest keynote, was then at 5 p.m. Eastern on the 7th. And was the typical thing. Showed a bunch of trailers. Some really good trailers were released. That's what I kind of went through. I didn't watch any of this live. I don't like watching it live. And well, let's talk about that for a second. Why I don't like watching it live. I don't even like watching it recorded because I don't think these presentations are well formed.
No,
They will have people come out and talk from time to time, and then they show a bunch of trailers, right?
Right.
But the trailers have no context when they're showing it in this like back to back to back stream.
And it started out okay, right? Because they did 3 or 4 trailers in the beginning and introduced each one. And he said that Keeley said things like, and I got a chance to play this one. The combat's really cool, blah, blah, blah. But then after a while, they just started rolling them.
Yeah. Which is a terrible way, in my view, to do it. If you just start rolling trailers, especially back to back to back, and I have no context, and this is what I did when I watched it after the fact. I got to be careful how much of these I play. All these companies love to like do a AI image search on everybody's stream and give you copyright strikes because you showed a trailer of their game and are commenting on it. And then you can get around it. You can tell them, hey, we were, and then they'll uncopyright strike your content. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I have to fast forward to the end. I have to fast forward to the end to see what even you're showing me. What is this game? I'm seeing a wizard casting spells. Has Call of Duty added magic into their game? I have no idea. Could be. But now I got to like fast forward to the end to even figure out what the heck you're showing me. So, first off, did get to see a little bit more of Once Human. Once Human had another trailer and some gameplay. My initial impressions when I first saw the trailers of Once Human was it seemed almost a little bit too much horror for me to really be all that excited about it. I'm not all that into horror as a genre. I don't play many horror games. Horror, survival, I've even shied away from, although I talked to another guy today, a friend of mine, Sons of the Forest. I need to go play Sons of the Forest. There's enough in there that I really should be playing it already and have tried it out. But there was just enough of a horror vibe that I shied away from it. So that's what Once Human was, the vibe that it was giving me. Now that I've watched the gameplay and watched it through a little bit more, there's a little bit of that, but now I'm getting much more of like a supernatural vibe that is pulling me in. So they did a good job of expanding it.
I mean, I would call vampire stuff horror. But I think you mean something different by horror.
Yes. Like supernatural, even like supernatural monster stuff, I think is fine. Gross horror, mutilation.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That kind of thing, shock value, jump scare, that kind of horror. I don't like, because like Vampire Survivors, V Rising. I wouldn't call V Rising horror at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's supernatural. It's based on vampires, but it's cartoony action RPG. So now you could do a vampire game that's horror, but that's not one. And Vampire Survivors certainly isn't one. That's a bullet shooter. So yeah, as long as it's not too horror, this is looking more and more interesting to me. Especially if there's like a supernatural story to it, then that would be almost more like Elden Ring. Elden Ring is like from the outside, if you just took a glance at it, it could seem like a horror bit, but it's really not. They definitely showed some more of Dune Awakening. In fact, I didn't even have a link on it here. But the Dune Awakening, oh wait, I do. I am pretty already up to speed on Dune Awakening. We've talked about it here. This is on one of my most anticipated titles. I am all in on Dune Awakening. I do have a few reservations depending on how they go with the multiplayer, but this particular trailer this was the story trailer. So if you haven't caught up on it, definitely watch it. This story trailer did such an amazing job of setting the context for how the game is going to be staged and why it's interesting to separate you from the Paul Atreides story. So there is no Paul Atreides in this version of the story. The trailer itself is narrated by Paul Atreides, and basically what he's saying is, I've looked back and forth sort of like through the timeline, and if things had gone differently, if my mother had not disobeyed the Bene Gesserit and had a son instead of a daughter like they wanted her to and told her to, what would have happened? Well, what would have happened is the Dune Awakening game. And that's where you get to play. So you get to play in an Arrakis where there was no Paul Atreides, where the multiple factions, the Harkonnen and the Atreides and the Sardaukar are all intermixed, and that conflict over who controls the spice and who controls the planet is an ongoing conflict that's stretched out much longer because you don't have this godlike figure, Paul Atreides, that's disrupting everything, which I thought was really clever. I thought that was a really clever way to spin the story. And they did a really good job in the trailer of sort of explaining that. So, cool. I'm all in. And
Plus, it's a survival game.
Plus, it's a survival building, crafting game. It's set in a sci-fi universe, and I'm a sucker for that. As I've said before, my only reservation is that we'll have to see how it plays out. Probably even post-release. There's nothing that they can say or do too much before then, is how much of the game is locked behind forced PvP. And if too much of the game is locked behind forced PvP, well, then it's going to be quite disappointing. I'm sure I'll play it in the initial stages and play with it for a while, but I would not play it long term if you're unless you want to deal with forced PvP, get out there, deal with like the elite dudes shooting everybody to even get a chance to build the ornithopter or whatever. If that's the game that you have to play, yeah, I'll try it a couple times, but I'm not gonna put up with that for too long.
Is not where your interests lay.
Right, because it's a completely it changes the game. It changes every survival game. I was having this conversation with someone else today. Rust is a great example. Rust in PvE is a really interesting survival crafting building game. You can like build these compounds and forts and have like your like growing food, but if you play Rust as the PvP version of Rust, you don't build any of that. You build like these little honeycombed janky bunkers where you cram as much into as small an area as possible and insulate it. Every building looks like garbage because that's what you need to do to survive. You don't go out unless you're ready to die. There's no exploration and adventure because it's who are you going to blow up or who's going to blow you up. And it's a different game. It's a completely different game. So, not a bad game, but it's a different game. Okay. Are you up to speed on what they're doing with New World, Sema? Because that was another one.
No.
And
I saw a couple trailers that I thought were going to turn out to be New World, but they weren't.
Right. So there's some confusion over this, even of people that have heard about it so far. And mostly that's because of some of the marketing spin on it. And some of what the way they're describing it is if you
like a replacement game.
Yes. If you mishear what they're saying, you might hear them saying it's no longer an MMO. It's now an action RPG. So you might think that they're like rebooting the game and it's no longer going to be like New World, the MMO. It's going to be like Diablo. And that's not the case. They are continuing to lean into the PvE and action RPG elements of what exists currently in New World, and they'll be continuing to build on that to the point where they will be sharding the servers a little bit more than they do now, and you won't be locked into a server necessarily. The PvE will be expanded. There will be raids. They will be expanding out how the continuing to build out how combat works. But it's a continuing evolution, and they've been evolving the game since it launched. Everybody's kind of liking what they're seeing from how this is evolving, but it's not a reboot. It's not. It's just it's expansion with some additional features that are going to be like sharding of the servers and things like that. So don't get lost in the. It's not an MMO anymore. It's an action RPG game. It's not turning into Diablo. It's still New World and everything that New World is good at. And New World is really good at a lot of things and a really good game. Again, it got bashed because MMO players hate every new MMO, and they only like the rose-colored MMO of their childhood years that doesn't exist anymore. And so it got bashed by the people whose expectations weren't met by what ended up being produced. And because they changed some of the direction from the alpha to what ended up getting released. So the people that were involved in the alpha that wanted just like a full-on forced PvP game didn't get that at release. So they were disappointed as well. But it's come a long way, and a lot of people are really happy with it. So I'm sure I'm going to be playing it. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be coming. That's their expansion that's coming in October. Is what Aeternum is what you're seeing all being advertised and talked about right now. But it's been evolving. If you haven't played it since launch, it's evolved quite a bit. There's new zones, there's mounts, there's, you can ride horses and wolves and new weapons and spells. And we keep dipping into it in the AIE crew because it's worth it. It's really good. So I'm sure I'm going to come back to it. Definitely in October, but I dip in every once in a while just to check things out anyway. I played Angry Earth quite a bit. All right. I got confused why Tim Robinson. So for people that aren't familiar with Tim Robinson, he's got a show. I don't even know what it is. It's on. Is it on Netflix? It's called I Think You Should Leave, and it's sketch comedy, and it's like cringe sketch comedy, but it's so cringe it comes like out the other side of cringe to be like such the.
It'd be like Warm and Sunny.
No, well, no, it's still just cringe, but it's so weird. You're not identifying with him at all because it's like when Michael Scott does something cringy, you cringe too because you want to identify with Michael Scott. When Tim Robinson does his cringy thing, you're just like watching a car crash and don't.
Or because you had a boss that wasn't that different from Michael Scott.
Right. That's something you can identify with. This stuff is really cringe, but it's like so not unidentifiable that it's fascinating to watch some of it. I haven't watched a ton of it, but just some of it's really funny because it's just so off the wall. Anyway, EA. So tell me about this. Why did they do this? Why did they get Tim Robinson to do this?
I mean, according to comments, on the YouTube video, because he's a skater, this is how he fits in. But the sense of the commercial is M-Corp, who's figures in the game, and for some reason is a corporation that doesn't want people to skate, I guess. He's convincing you, if you're watching this, he's trying to convince you that M-Corp is not leaving whatever this town is where skate happens. And I should know because I think it's the game where all the skate games, the town where all the skate games happen. But anyway, yeah, he's just saying, basically, we're not leaving, and then showing all these people leaving. We're here for the long term. We're M-Corp. We're behind this city. We're not going anywhere.
So it's this typical cringe sketch comedy with stuff going on in like an office full of cubicles and him like talking to the camera, doing this pitch of why M-Corp is still committed to the town and committed to all the people in the town and we're not abandoning you. Don't abandon us. And it is pretty hilarious. I've got to say, I didn't know that Tim Robinson was a skater, but he definitely was, or still is. He was like a semi-pro or pro skater, I guess. And so I did, after you told me this, Sema, after you did the research, I started looking into it too. And I'm like seeing like some of his old stuff when he was like doing comedy while he was still a skater. And then I was like reading some of the commentary and some of the background. Maybe it was on Wikipedia or somewhere else. And it was saying, yes, he hangs out with these other pro skater comedians.
My
And I'm like,
gosh.
what? Is this like a thing? Does like when pro skaters are done being pro skaters, is this like a natural career path? They made it seem like that because they were like names of these multiple pro skaters turned comedians. Anyway, so his show is interesting. This sketch, I didn't get it at all why
It's
this
long.
connected to the game.
Really long.
Because the trailer then it's a 4 minutes long, and 3 minutes or like 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes and 15 seconds of the 4 minutes is Tim Robinson doing his thing and doing his M Corp monologue. And then the last 30 seconds is the skate game, some
Right.
some trailers of the skate game. Whatever. Okay.
And it's not anywhere near done yet. This is like super alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. So that's the skate game. Like it confused me when I saw it and when it was happening, but cool. So those were my highlights so far. And that's what I pulled out of the 30 trailers or so, whatever, in just the keynote. Yeah, there's a ton of like Fatal Fury. We already talked about Once Human, Metaphor, Lego Horizon Adventures looks really interesting. Kingdom Come, Killer Bean. But the ones that I'm basically calling out are the ones that I'm sort of either definitely looking forward to or looking to play. Among Us, the animated series, Alan Wake 2 expansion. So there's a ton more in there. Go check them out. But there's, and Pal World. I should have put this one in there. Pal World's getting expanded content. This was on my radar even before the Games Fest. Maybe that's why I didn't have it in here. In fact, did we talk about this last week? We might have. Pal World's got new content coming out, expanding both functionality and area and pals that you can collect and that kind of thing. So fun stuff for Pal World too.
Oh, yeah.
I went deeper for some reason into the Xbox One. That fascinated me even more. Maybe because I don't play on my Xbox ever, but I do Xbox Games Pass on the PC. And I've been closer to Microsoft over the years. So maybe that's why I paid more attention to this. I also feel like their presentation was more polished than the Games Fest presentation. And I thought their trailers and their games were higher quality in general than what was shown in the Games Fest trailers. Some really interesting stuff coming out of that. But still also quite good. No shade on the Games Fest stuff, but the Xbox One I think was just top tier. Started with and ended with, it was sort of bookended with the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 presentation, and then the whole like 45 minutes after the main Xbox presentation, the Xbox showcase, was a deep dive with the Call of Duty team that's working on it. It's if you're into Call of Duty, it's looking like another interesting entry into the series. People that are fans of Call of Duty are fans of Call of Duty because they've been playing it for forever, and then you get to play Call of Duty and you play Call of Duty with your friends. It's still weird how
You said duty.
So Sema and I were talking a little bit about it before the show. It's a very realistic war game, and it's continuing to dive deep into guns and shooting and war, which feels kind of rough on around the edges a little bit, but Call of Duty is well established, and the fun of Call of Duty from Call of Duty players, and I used to play Call of Duty even a little bit back in the day on Xbox. The fun of it is getting together with your friends and playing Call of Duty. And for that, the setting is almost beside the point. The campaign is definitely beside the point for that. So it's a really giant title because of that. It's just a really accessible game for people that want to get together with their friends and play a shooter. So
Yeah, I mean, Forrester notes in the chat that 100 million people play Call of Duty, which is the point he made in here too, which is an incredible number of people. So
yeah,
there's
and that's one of
yeah,
the reasons Microsoft was happy to get their hands on it. It going
right.
on Game Pass is also huge. And I don't know why people. There's always some criticism of what's going on Game Pass and is that bad or good for the game, and people criticizing things being put on Game Pass because then I don't own it. You could still buy it. Some stuff will go on Game Pass and you won't be able to buy it, but then you could just subscribe to Game Pass when you want to play it. I think the idea, well, we've talked about it before, is the idea of not owning games good or bad. Some people think it's really, really bad. I don't own any of the content that I consume on Netflix, and I haven't thought twice about that. I don't go and buy DVDs anymore. I've got a box of old DVDs. I've got VHS tapes around here somewhere, probably. I once in a while will pull one out, but I don't lament the fact that I no longer have shelves of content, and I
I
don't
mean,
lament that fact with games anymore either.
I don't either, but I know that there are people who like to own the physical
Part of
things of their
yeah,
favorite things.
yes. Part of the reason it's, for me, much less of an impact is almost all of the games that I spend a lot of time with are live service games as well.
And it
So
it is
owning the game
we're
at that point
still
matters
yeah,
not at all.
we're still in the transition period for that too. Like I think people are kind of forgetting that in early days of Netflix there was some stuff about I want to own the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. It is a transition. It is early in the life cycle, even though it's kind of been going on for a decade now. But still,
And of
people
course
aren't used to it.
people do still buy, you know, DVDs.
Right. Yeah. Although I think they took all the DVDs out of Best Buy even. I don't think you can go to Best Buy and buy DVDs anymore. Didn't they do that? I
I
think they
don't know.
did that. Or maybe it was the music. Maybe you could still buy DVDs, but you can't buy CDs. Yeah, you can't buy CDs anymore at Best Buy.
I mean, I never shop at Best Buy. If I'm going to
I know.
actually
I don't
physically
either.
buy something at Best Buy, I will buy it online and then go pick it up. That's the closest I'll come.
Or if there's some emergency and I need a cable, maybe I'll go to a Best Buy once a
But
year.
even then, I'm going to look online first.
Right. I'm like
I'm
emergency where I need one in the next 5 minutes.
no. What I mean
Oh,
is I'm going to look
yes.
online to see if they have it at the store. I'm not going to
Right.
drive there to find out.
Right. So Call of Duty bookended the presentation. They went deep into it. They talked to the designers and the team on the back half, which I thought was really cool. I really like those talks. I didn't watch all of it, but it was fun. It's always fun to see a game being made in a studio, and they showed some of the mocap and how that kind of stuff works. And so get into that if you're interested. Treyarch looks like a pretty cool place. Phil Spencer chatted. Phil Spencer talked. He was wearing a black jacket. His was not leather. The other two executives, Matt Booty and who is the third executive? I didn't really know. I didn't know either of them. Phil Spencer's the only one I know. I've got her name here somewhere. Matt Booty and I don't know. I missed it. But they both had leather jackets. We'll skip ahead to that in a bit. Those are some slick jackets, and apparently that's the uniform. Sarah Bond. Thank you, Forster. All pre-recorded, of course. all well spoken. I think Sarah did a great job of being a good speaker and an executive lead. Sometimes you get these executives out there and they're pretty dull. These guys are good. I think they're fine. So Phil's getting a lot of backlash these days. Have you noticed that? I keep seeing headlines. Phil Spencer, I saw one just perusing the news for this. We need to quit cutting Phil Spencer any more slack. He needs to take responsibility for the garbage that's happening in the industry.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, they did have layoffs, and I think that's what soured people quite a bit on any executive anywhere. And Phil Spencer's getting some of that backlash, warranted or not. Layoffs are never fun for anyone, and you can feel free to blame executives. That's not an unwarranted position. But I think Phil Spencer's done a pretty good job in general, and I'm willing to continue to be a Phil Spencer fan. This one I kind of listed everything out in our notes, Sema. We don't need to talk about all of these. The Doom, I did like the Doom trailer. We don't need to really talk about it, but it's Doom Dark Ages, so it's you're playing Doom, but it's Doom in like Middle Ages, and you have like this gun. You still have a gun, but then you have like a mace and you have a shield, and the shield has got like a serrated edge that spins, and you go in Dark Ages and you go with there's like dragons in addition to demons, and you shoot a bunch of demons. Look
These
pretty cool to
games
me.
have really come a long way. I mean, I did dabble with shooters in my early years, and it was Doom, and it was Castle Wolfenstein, and I forget the third one. But through the years,
Quake.
they have
You probably played Quake.
Quake, yeah. So it was like through the years they have just wow, this looks spectacular.
Yeah, it looks really. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Especially compared to
I tried to play
Doom
Doom
1, original
a
Doom.
while back, and it had just become too scary. Like the first thing that came in the door behind me, I'm like, nope.
Right. This
I'm in
is
the dark.
the current Dooms. This kind of almost looks less scary because it is like this
Yes.
this medieval,
Right.
supernatural theme, less of the Doom horror theme, which a lot of the Doom games have gotten to lately. Jump scare Doom horror. But this is like big wide open areas and these castles, and you're like running through and blasting things away. And the combat's relatively rapid. They aren't like really long fights, except for some of the bigger bosses. So anyway, another zombie came next, State of Decay. Looked mildly interesting. Not a big one on my radar, but looks pretty good. Dragon Age: The Veilguard definitely is getting a lot of buzz. I've never been into the Dragon Age series, but I may end up playing this one. It's looking pretty good. I know Dragon Age has been good in the past. When Dragon Age hit my radar, it was already like way past I wasn't into it enough at the time, and I was like late to the party. So because I was late, I didn't jump in. Clever, fun trailer, looked exciting, looks interesting. People are the Dragon Age hardcore fans are throwing the most shade at this one out of any of the trailers from what I've seen in the discussion so far. They don't like the art style, they don't like the humor, they don't like some of the statements that have come from the dev team. One in particular, which I kind of like the term, is player sexual. So what they're explaining is every possible companion, you will have the option to romance them. So basically they're saying the sexuality of every companion NPC is is pro player.
Yeah.
They're going to be attracted to the player. No matter what. That's how Baldur's Gate works, and everybody loves it there, but for some reason people aren't sure if that's a good thing in Dragon Age. I like that term though, and I like that idea that here's the way to explain it is it's the sexuality of the NPCs is that they're attracted to the main character. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Whatever the main character is, they're attracted to it. So you make your main character, they're going to be attracted to it. That seems reasonable to me. And that seems like a good approach if you want to like build romance into your game.
Especially when whatever you provide, the players ask for yet another combination.
Right.
I
Right.
think
Which
it's pretty genius.
we get this in Star Wars, the Old Republic all the time. Well, people will ask for romance of the last thing you
Yeah.
would ever think would be on anyone's list. Skadge. Why can't I romance Skadge? The blob-like ass of a companion that most, like 99% of people hate. Someone's going to ask to romance it. And no matter what their player character is, male, female, whatever. So yeah, I think that's a fine way to go about it. If you're gonna have romance in your game. Now, do we need romance in the game? That's an episode we need to have at some point. Why do we have to have romance in all these games? Why do we like romance in the games? I don't understand humans, and they apparently appreciate this.
It needs to have a certain level of subtlety, because it can't be. You can't have every companion be like. Is it Starfield that has the guy that just likes everything you do and applauds you and
the adoring fan?
Adoring fan, yeah.
Yeah, you can't romance him, but he's the adoring fan. Yes.
No, I know, but so it can't be like every character has the same, every companion
Right.
has the same personality and says the same lines. Yeah.
Right, because then everything would be like the adoring fan, and the adoring fan is someone everybody likes to hate too, because he has no
Right.
depth besides adoring you.
Still has
Exactly.
to have meaning.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's a really good perspective.
Then because you want to your character to also be attracted to the companion.
And I think it also can't be where 5 minutes into meeting any character, they want to jump your bones, which is what I kind of felt in Baldur's Gate. It was like every NPC I met was obviously attracted to me within the first 30 seconds of conversation. That's not realistic either. It is weird.
It hasn't been my experience in life.
Right. Exactly. Next up, now this one was a surprise. It was and wasn't a surprise. The fact that they were going to talk about Starfield and the fact that they were going to be teasing and showing trailers for the Starfield Shattered Space expansion, which is coming in October, wasn't a surprise. Starfield fans, now not everyone's a Starfield fan, so we'll set that aside, but Starfield fans were very excited about that. So Shattered Space is looking good. It's looking interesting. You had a little bit of an outside perspective on just seeing the trailer. What were you saying about the Shattered Space trailer itself, Sema?
Well, just that it has a lot more of that alien thing going on here than in Starfield coming up. And also I feel like I'm really endorse Bethesda's sort of like we're going for it in spite of all the I don't want to say backlash. It's not really backlash, it's just bad press or whatever. I like the fact that they had a plan, they're executing to a plan, they're bringing this out. They were probably working on this part long before they even released the base game, or at least they had it mapped out. So it's like we didn't have a lot of aliens in Starfield, but that's coming.
Right.
Just like in Fallout 76, originally there weren't a lot of NPCs, and they got added in.
Yeah. And maybe that was a little more reactionary. This is definitely, you're right, though. I think this is their plan for how this story needs to go. It definitely leans into the space powers, the space wizardry and the alien landscapes and a lot of stuff that was not part of what the base story and approach and trailers presented, which is a twist for me in my head because I really love that base aesthetic, the NASA punk of we're just, the next generation of NASA explorers out there. There's spacers who are punks and scavengers and we're fighting against those guys. They're space pirates, but they're also flying the same sort of spaceships we are. As you go through the Starfield story, you do get the idea of the Starborn and the multiverse, and you have these Starborn space wizardry powers by the end. But that's okay. This leans much further into more space wizardry, more alien stuff going on, alien planet landscapes that are fantastical in some ways. But I'm there for it. I'm happy to go there. We can always go back to New Atlantis and get that NASA punk feel anytime we want as well, and build our ships and our bases that way too. But then the bigger thing that happened, which people got surprised about here over the weekend, was they said, all right, here's our Shattered Space trailer. Doesn't it look cool? Oh, and by the way, boom, new content today is coming out.
Yeah.
So this was great, and everybody went crazy. Fans went crazy. And this, I think, is an opportunity for people that claimed to be haters in the beginning have an opportunity now to come back and say, well, suddenly I don't hate it, even though the game itself hasn't changed very much. But they're doing two things. One is they actually added content into the game itself, and that's the Trackers Alliance. It's not a lot of content, but it's a base for the kind of thing that they can add in. There's a new NPC that meets you if you go by the lodge that says, hey, the Trackers Alliance is a thing. You need to come visit us. We've got stuff to talk to you about. And then you could get into Trackers Alliance, basically bounty hunting missions. It's not everything everybody wanted. People wanted to be able to arrest bounties and bring them in warm on your ship in a brig. You can't do that yet. But the other thing that got released, and this is where this could come from, is they finally released the Creation Kit and the Creations Library. And they did a couple things with this. There's a little backlash in how some of it's coming out because people, even though they knew that there would be a creation store where you could pay for bounty, pay for the add-ons and stuff, and pay for the community creations created with the Creation Kit. Some of it's more expensive than people wanted. There's a Trackers Alliance mission that's one of the paid bits of content, and it's a single mission out of that, but people don't like that you're like paying for mission content. I don't know. We're going to see how that all shakes out. I think it's a perfectly fine way to go. They did give any of the collector's edition people that have purchased the collector's edition 1,000 of the content creator store credits that you can go and spend. This is going to be big, and I think this is going to be the real game changer. I forgot my game changer button is messed up. This is going to be the real game changer for Starfield. The creations and what's possible on a couple levels is going to be really interesting. There have already been add-ons that you've been able to go and get. This will now solidify the ability to create the add-ons in the best way possible. There's a lot of great add-ons already available. It will have add-ons in a place where the creators themselves can get a little bit of a kickback for the interesting things that they create. And there's been some great discussion out there about how interesting of a platform Starfield may end up being, and we do expect it to be, for this kind of content. So people get out into the galaxy as they explore the planets in Starfield and say, hey, there's a lot of empty space out here. Well, what do you think if now we have all of these add-ons? What do you think all that empty space now provides as a canvas for all of these interesting creators out there to go and do interesting things with? Like, I saw a couple of people speculate, how many minutes is it going to take until someone rebuilds all of Skyrim on a planet out there?
Right.
And that's coming. All of Fallout 4 is going to end up on some planet, somewhere. We're going to have ghouls and zombies out on, scorched out on some planet. We've got all of this open space where you can do that and not disrupt the greater game and not have to reskin your whole game like when you're trying to do a Skyrim expansion or a Skyrim skin that can really make some of those creations, I think, interesting and still fit into the broader galaxy of where you're playing the game. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what comes out in there. I typically wait for add-ons to be solid and be widespread. I'm not one that like seeks out weird little add-ons and like tries a whole bunch of them. But I have done a couple Skyrim sets of add-ons, especially when I started to get into Skyrim VR. There were add-ons you kind of needed to have to really make that work well. And I can't wait to see what the good add-ons are that end up in Starfield. Fallout 76, if you looked at this stuff, Sema?
I did. I found it very interesting. Plus, again, the sort of mixture of the art style and the music is extremely interesting to me.
Yeah. The Shenandoah Valley. That expansion is now live as of today. As of us speaking now, it's been live for a couple hours only. So Fallout 76 is Skyline Valley is what they're calling the expansion, but it's Shenandoah. It's part of West Virginia there still. I liked the little live action bit that they added into the trailer for when you're watching the trailer for Skyline Valley. So that's what they sort of show off is a live action telethon for Vault Tech inviting people to the Skyline Valley Vault.
They're selling it basically.
Right. So this is, like 2076, 2077, before the bombs drop. They're doing a telethon, and it's the typical Fallout jokes and sort of like undercurrent themes. And act now, you don't want to miss out. And if you do,
Right.
I hope you've got some extra sunscreen.
At the end, he goes, still not convinced? Well, not everybody needs skin.
Yeah, exactly. That was the joke
And
I
then
was trying to remember.
They showed that, and then they switched to like a ghoul.
Yeah. Then they switched to the Fallout 76 era, which is, it's only about 15, 18 years after the bombs drop. And what's going on here in the Skyline Valley area is a whole new set of content, new zombie types. They've been electrified to some degree, and they've retained some of that. So you're fighting some of these electric zombies. Some of them have created a society, ghouls. So there's these electric ghouls, and they don't like regular humans. They don't want people like getting into this area, and you've got to figure out what's going on. So there's a whole story associated with it. For people that are familiar with how Fallout 76 works, you'll also be able to build any of your camps down there in this new area, and there's some cool landscapes with like waterfalls that you'll be able to put new camps in and build around. There's a new world boss, and the way the world boss works is you drop a nuclear bomb, and it's difficult to do, but it's a player activity to nuke an area of the map, which transforms the map temporarily into a nuked out, irradiated area and generates a boss fight. And then they also teased some things coming later, like in early 2025, they will add the ability to play as a ghoul. And that's got to be a reaction to the Fallout TV series and everybody just loving Walton Goggins and what he's done with that role. And now everybody wants to be Walton Goggins.
Right.
So that's very cool. But that'll be 2025. But yeah, the Skyline Valley stuff is out now. I'm going to play it tonight just to check it out. And the new season has started. So their season pass, this will be season 17 for them. That has started tonight as well. I got to go in there and do my dailies, get my season track, because there's a really, really good reward towards the end of the season in this season that I really want, which is there's this concept of a tent, which is a temporary camp that you can like drop on the map at a moment's notice, pretty much anywhere. And they've added more utility into this latest one that they've created, which solves some problems for me. There's a way to change your spec, change your loadout, but you need this punch card machine that I have in my base or in a couple places around the map. I keep leaving my camp with the wrong spec, which is the equivalent to me leaving my
With
stronghold in
no
Star Wars with no pants on. I keep doing that in Fallout 76. So I'll be able to drop this tent trailer thing anywhere on the map and fix myself when I do this in the future, which I'm happy about. All right, other weird stuff, but look really cool, amazing stuff that some of these extra trailers were interspersed in. I recommend seeing some of it. I don't know, this again frustrated me because they would be showing these trailers and I just got into the habit of fast forward to the end. What the hell even is this thing? Go back to the beginning, watch the trailer. So there's this new thing called Expedition 33, which looks like almost like Souls-like combat, but this really interesting story about the painter who's an antagonist who paints death into the world. And
I hear you tapping.
check, 1, 2. Okay, can
Here
you
you
hear me
go.
now?
Yes.
Okay, well, technical difficulty. I probably won't get it edited out. Sorry. I don't know what happened there. I think my either my preamp or something glitched.
So you were talking about Expedition 33. That's where you were when you.
Yeah. Looks cool. I don't know what it is. Looks cool. Go check it out. The one that came after that, same thing. South of Midnight. Looks
Yeah,
amazing and cool. Did you watch that one?
I did watch the trailer, and what I liked about it was had such a really strong sense of setting, but it's also a setting that I personally haven't seen a lot, which this looks like a bayou type of thing.
Yeah.
And she has this, like, there's monsters, but apparently that monster right there is her friend.
Right. And that's who's like narrating the trailer with her is some giant fish thing that she's riding
Thing.
around on. It almost looks like a puzzle game to me too. Like what they showed at the end when she has to like get away from the giant crocodile, Tuto or whatever his name is she doesn't like fight him. She doesn't like do any like shooting or anything. She has to like do something with the clock tower and ring the bell and then jump off at the right time and then escape with on the fish. So I'm wondering if it's more of like a puzzle exploration adventure game. We don't know. It's coming in 2025. It's called South of Midnight. It's artistically, it looks gorgeous. And
Yeah.
I like what I've seen so far of it. And just in that trailer, it piqued my interest. So we'll see. So here's one that got a big gold star next to it for us to talk about. Tell me what Blizzard stuff they showed off, Sema.
So they showed the trailer for the first, I mean, it's in August, I think, is when the first X pack for the War Within is coming in.
Right.
WoW.
It's all
Yeah.
launching. It's all world is changing. World Soul is saga is starting, right? I don't know what the
Right.
first one is called, but
Right. And I don't know if you remember, but at the end of I think it was the end of Battle for Azeroth when the sword gets stuck in the desert
yeah,
in Silithus. We're going back to that sword.
right.
So there's going to be some resolution because that sword is still there, sticking out.
Into the planet, and the planet is potentially alive And so this sword is still lodged into the planet for
Right. I think in the yes, in the WoW lore, the planet has a soul, and it's the
yes.
the world soul, and it's called Azeroth.
Yes.
And in Battle for Azeroth, we were trying to heal her and protect her and everything else, but apparently now she's coming into her own, and she's there or not there, or we have to protect her again. I don't know, because there's a new antagonist now, who's a character that we're familiar with, named Xalatath, who used to be sort of stuck in, or the embodiment of this evil voice that was in a famous dagger. And so the dagger, if you had that dagger, that it would be constantly whispering to you these creepy things. So that person has been waiting for the old gods and the titans to sort of finish killing each other off, so that she could step into the void and take over. And I think she's the big bad guy now.
Yes. So they've showed her. She narrates this to some degree. We've heard that it's Xalatath. She looks cool. She's like a void elfy kind of person, right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what's up with her. I didn't know exactly who she was. I had to look it up, and now I do remember all like the So there she is. There's Xalatath. Looking
I think I
really
really love
cool.
this trailer because aside from the stuff that's for the War Within, it also has all the flashbacks to some of their other great cinematic moments, and I don't know, I can't help it. I just love that.
Yeah. And I think um this is them and what's his name? Who's back? Narrative director Chris
Oh, yeah.
Metzen,
Yeah.
bringing a lot of the loose threads and a lot of the narrative of everything that's come before into to pull on some of those threads that were just sort of out there. Like, yeah, what's the deal with the sword? What's the deal with Xalatath? What's the deal with, and so like all of this, what's the deal with the world soul? So all of that is now going to be threads that they pull on throughout these next 3 expansions. This is the first of them. So not a ton more on that, but they did show that.
When they
And
get to the end of the third one, they're just going to be no more new retail. They're just going to start another classic WoW.
or classic, well, it will have caught up by then and
Well, no,
will
no,
take
no,
over.
no, 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 no. It won't have caught up, but it'll be several X packs ahead of this new classic WoW, right? So it will be in like Legion or BFA or something, and they'll and now we'll just do this circle. I'll just
Just keep rebooting and going back to a classic over and
yeah,
over and over again.
yeah.
All these overlapping classics, which
Because it'll take 10 years to play through them all.
which is a weird thing. That would almost work because I think a lot of the reason that like classic is working right now, it's some of like the people that originally played those, but it's also people that didn't play those who are now getting to play through.
Yeah.
It's like a new generation, right? So yeah,
Right.
so there'll be like a new generation.
Exactly.
And well,
And
let's just keep doing that forever.
and they won't have to come up with any new.
They'll just keep rebooting every 10 years, and another new generation will start
Right.
with vanilla WoW.
Yeah. It's not even rebooting. It's like a constant jump roping thing, and just new people will be jumping in at the beginning.
Right, but the other ones will still keep going too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they'll just have to like keep adding on another classic, and then
Yeah.
then there'll be like 10 classics in 100 years. There'll be 10 classics.
Exactly. And they'll be at all different points along
Yeah,
this.
different stages of their life cycle.
Yeah.
So interesting. We'll see how that goes. Flip through a couple of these. The Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. This is the way titles have to go these days. You can't just have, in order to differentiate it for SEO and everything, you can't say like even just like it's another Metal Gear Solid game. Okay, which Gear Solid game is it? You can't even say like Metal Gear Solid 6 because that's too boring. So you have to like keep adding more and more words on. So this is Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater that's coming out. Looked another good Metal Gear Solid game. I sort of skipped over it. But as I said, all of these Xbox trailers, for whatever reason, just looked really good to me. This one, the next one is Sea of Thieves, and that trailer made me want to go play Sea of Thieves. I've only played a tiny bit of Sea of Thieves, but this is like, they really looking good. New warships, new stuff going on. It looked, and I'm like, I want to go play Sea of Thieves. Then
It does
they
look really good.
then they again threw in more like new things you've never seen before. This one called Flintlock Siege of Dawn is described as a Souls-light game where it's sort of like action-y Souls kind of game. So this was another one that frustrated me. The title of the game doesn't show up till the end of the trailer, and it shows on screen for basically a quarter of a second. I had to go to the end, and I had to like keep Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. Okay, 1.5 seconds. Oh, put it in like a letterbox or something and tell me what I'm watching, please. I had to go back and I had to like stop and pause 3 times, go like scrubbing back and forth to even find out what the name of this thing was.
But it is definitely coming in July.
Yeah.
That we can see.
The July 18th, 2024 launch date, and it's like in this giant font. Okay, they showed it at the end for a couple seconds as well. It's crazy how they're trying to present some of this stuff. Age of Mythology Retold 0. Wait, Age of Mythology Retold 0, is that the name, the full name of this thing too? That's coming out too. That one looked interesting. Age of Mythology has been out there before. Looks like a fun trailer. I didn't go too far into that. It wasn't a starred one from me either. Perfect Dark also looked good. That's another trailer that went out. We'll see how I think that's coming in 2025. And then that led into Matt Booty, the executive, coming on stage in a leather jacket to talk about Perfect Dark and lead into a couple other things. So Perfect Dark is coming from Crystal Dynamics. He talked about that. He then introduced, he talked about a couple things that we saw already, and he introduces the Diablo expansion. So let's talk about that for just a quick second. Talk about horror. That trailer
that is extra horror.
I was into the first Diablo trailers. This kind of even like crossed the line a little bit for me. This is like horror, straight up horror. And I know that's kind of what Diablo is supposed to be, but this trailer was disturbing. In fact, I'm going to just skip ahead. So I'm getting creeped out again. It is straight up disturbing. It is the story we've been waiting for. So I forgot what her name is. The main character girl we meet in the story of the first part of the Diablo game. She grabs one of the crystals at the end and is going to like take it. She's trying to like solve the problem that was sort of started by her mother, and she went on a journey. And this is the continuation of the journey. That crystal, it's got demon soul associated with it. She's battling it in her mind, and now she's fighting the dark side is the whole deal of what she's got going on. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested in how her story evolves, but boy, this was a rough horror trailer, disturbing trailer to get through. But the Diablo game itself it's weird because it's an action RPG. It's not as disturbing as the trailers ever are, which is weird. The cinematics are a little bit, but playing the game is not. It's like an action, top-down action RPG and shoot a bunch of stuff. I'll definitely play it. I want to play the story. I think Diablo 4 is an amazing game. I think it was way underrated when it started because people had things that they wanted to hate about it. Because of how the gear worked, they've solved a ton of that. The most recent season has solved a ton of that for a lot of people. Everybody's kind of liking Diablo now. I hope this is successful for them. I really think they've done an amazing job in creating Diablo 4 at this point. So next one, Matt King is a comedian. He sounded like Matt Berry.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was Matt Berry. And it was very Matt Berry vibe in how this character was narrating the Fable trailer that came next. So there's a character, he's like a mentor, fighter, warrior, mentor, sitting on a chair, and he looks, he looks like he's a little bit past his prime, but he does one of those like Matt Berry, like, hey, I look like if you're looking for somebody who's really, the bee's knees, take a look right here.
Right.
It does one of those moves. It's the Fable game. So it's more of the Fable trailer. It's a fun little cinematic. I know people aren't liking the main character that they've shown so far for Fable because she's not pretty enough. Just a little bit that she gets to like talk in this trailer and take some action. I think she seems fine to me. She seems like she's got her own thing going on, and I don't care that she's not some cute, small, petite thing or whatever. I think that anybody who plays games should be over that, and anybody who's criticizing that has not played the game and doesn't even understand who the character is. But that's all I'll say on that. All right, let's skip past a couple of the other ones. Fragpunk, which is a interesting looking 5x5 shooter, 5 versus 5 shooter where you like play these cards dynamically while you're playing a shooter against another team of 5 players that like changes the environment, mixes things up. Looks interesting. Winter Burrow, a cozy hand-drawn game. The flight simulator trailer looked really cool. But then they got to, which I keep forgetting, is because Bethesda is now part of Microsoft, is ESO. So did you see the ESO stuff? That's now launched, but
Yeah.
another good expansion is now out live for ESO. And if you're a fan of Elder Scrolls at all, it's everything you could want. ESO as a game, as an MMO, is really, really good. It's all of the previous Elder Scrolls games are in there to some degree, which makes it a really cool, fun game. So they're continuing to build it out. So ESO Gold Road is now available. We'll be playing that, I'm sure. Our guild AIE will be probably playing it this Friday night and checking out some of the new Gold Road stuff. And then every Friday they've got their fun night in there. So that's going to be cool. And then, yeah, so just a couple things left. I did have Sarah Bond listed in here in her leather jacket. But the Indiana Jones had a long trailer, including a bunch of gameplay. Did you watch it?
I did not watch Indiana Jones movie. I mean, yes, I've seen the movie. But no, not the trailer.
It's like a direct sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Even more so than the Raiders of the Lost Ark sequels were sequels. It's
Right.
like if it's like another story being told inside the original Raiders movie. And I haven't been interested in this, but the more I see of the trailers, it does feel like a story and a movie that you might want to get into and play. And they're doing a really good job of capturing the character of the Raiders of the Lost Ark era, Indiana Jones, his mannerisms, the not playing too much on the nostalgia. Like he's not saying the same thing over and over. Like, it belongs in a museum. It belongs in a museum. You don't have to like hammer that to the nth degree. But the looks, his gestures, his facial expressions, him shaking his head at the appropriate moments. It's looking really good. I don't know. I didn't expect to be interested in this, but now I am. So that's another fun one to keep an eye on. 5 more in between before Sarah Bond came on. Avowed, that one we've been seeing on and off. Looks interesting from the trailers. I've got my eye on Avowed. Atomfall, which looks like a interesting, almost like a Fallout kind of game, which I was surprised at. It's got a very Fallout vibe to whatever Atomfall is supposed to be. So we'll see as far as that goes when that becomes available in 2025. Assassin's Creed Shadows was highlighted in the Xbox event, but it's also in the Ubisoft event, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl is another Stalker game. Supposed to be pretty good. Not high on my radar as much as like even Assassin's Creed would be, but looks interesting. And then Sarah Bond came and talked out, and then there was only one thing after Sarah Bond. Sarah Bond's big thing was she actually introduced the new configurations for the console itself. There will be 2 versions of the X and the S that will be new with no DVD drive. And then there's a third one, which is the Xbox Series X Galaxy Black Edition with the DVD drive still in it. I want a DVD drive in my consoles, but this then gets further into the people that have embraced the, I buy all my games online, or I don't own my games and I play them on Games Pass. It provides them an opportunity to put out another configuration that's slightly cheaper, easier to maintain, doesn't have an optical drive in it anymore. There's 2 of those now. They're white. They're robot white. And then one more thing was a new Gears of War game that's going to be available. And that trailer also looked really, really good. It had a very Gears of War feel to it. It's a fight with one of their orc mutant creatures, and then the building collapses, and our antagonist, our hero, is falling off at the end, and his bro grabs him by the arm, and that's the whole Gears of War thing, is those 2 guys going to town. It's works really good as a co-op game, and it looks like they're still continuing on that vibe with this trailer. Appreciated it. Definitely had a gross part when he blew his head off, and then they showed the stump of the neck in a close-up. That grossed me out, but it was fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind blood and gore. I just get when it's too creepy of horror. That's when it freaks me out. So, as I said, I paid the most attention to the Xbox One. And then I got surprised by the Ubisoft one, which was huge and long and tons of things in it as well, and really, really good. Tell me about what you think so far about Outlaws, Sema.
It looks really good. I like the idea of the star of it, your character being a scoundrel.
Yeah, what about the Nix, Jix, Zix? What's
I don't have a problem with that. Yes, every Star Wars property has a cute robot.
I think they're overplaying their hand with their cute, the cute sidekick thing, pet robot, but be it a robot. This one, it's actually it's a creature. I think they're overplaying that in a lot of ways. I'm tired of seeing it, but I like this one from the gameplay perspective because it's also a tool.
Saying you're tired of seeing blasters and lightsabers, and
I know it's a Star Wars thing, but it's always like there's always one of them, and it's the main character's companion. Why doesn't everybody have their little companions across the universe?
It's always somebody's weapon.
But everybody's got lightsabers. There's lightsabers all over the place. There's blasters all over the place. But for whatever reason, the main character and only the main character gets a sidekick that follows them around in the Star Wars universe. In every movie, in every game, whatever, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It is a Star Wars-y thing. This one, I like the idea that he's also a key kind of tool, and they've always been in the Star Wars games. In Jedi Survivor, it's definitely that way. It's cleverly implemented so far from what I've seen in this game, and I like that. The more
Like
it
your,
can be
it's like your Pit Boy.
yeah, even more so. Like, I like that you can, I like it's almost like an independent companion, in addition to a tool. You can be in a fight,
Right.
and an enemy across the room can drop a gun, and you can tell your little companion, "Go get me that gun," and
Right.
it will
Just
go in
like
the
you could
middle of the
tell
firefight
you could tell R2D2 to go, you know,
to go
make
slice the
yeah,
door.
go slice it. Yeah.
Go, oh, R2, get that door open for us. So it
Right.
harkens back to that, definitely. And if it's cleverly implemented where it opens up creative opportunities for you to discover new ways to use them, then I think it's really, really cool. Oh, Forsters has got an interesting perspective in the chat room. Gives them a way to sort of give this smuggler force powers or magic powers or, that kind of ability without having the force. So she can't force grip a weapon to her, but she can tell Nix, Jix, Zix to go get it for her. Yeah, that is a clever perspective and a way that sort of brings that some of those abilities into the picture. I hope a lot of what you can do with it is really clever and open to discovery, and not just like, oh, well, this is the part where I can't move forward unless I click on Jix and make him go do the thing, and it's just like a rote linear ability that you have to do. I hope there's multiple ways to get through a scenario and discovering new ways to use it over time that people can then like post in Discord and say, oh, I can't believe it. I was stuck on doing this and I got Jix to do this for me. And other people go, whoa, I didn't even know he could do that. That would be a cool way for that to hopefully evolve. Then they showed us a couple other things that caught my eye, and this one I just threw a couple things out there. More and more people keep talking about X Defiant. I've not been into it yet, but they are showing some interesting things with X Defiant as a fighter shooter kind of game, squad shooter. I probably won't be playing it, but a lot of people are talking this up and saying that they really like it. They also showed, which has been on my radar, some Skull and Bones updates.
Mm-hmm.
I think they look really good. I don't know if it's enough to get me to go back and like play a bunch of Skull and Bones, but for the people that are playing Skull and Bones, they're moving full steam ahead. More ships, more ship types, more battle types, more sea monsters. So Raging Tides is a new, that was their season 1, and they're adding even more content after this, and they're continuing to build on what they've done with Skull and Bones. So Chorus of Hate. They've added in a couple bosses into Chorus of Hate antagonists, and it's got a real One Piece vibe to me of where they're going with this. It's not as cartoony as One Piece, but it's two brothers who they're pirate kingpins that have an opera theme to their fleet and the way they dress and the way they look. That feels very One Piece to me, which I think is fine. Go for it. One Piece is such a great thing. If we ever have a One Piece MMO, that would supersede this, but it's a cool way to go with these kind of pirate bosses, and they should embrace that. I'm fine with them doing that. More content coming. So this is what Ubisoft, I think, was also good at. More content coming for Prince of Persia. More content coming for Avatar. A new story pack is coming. And then they leaned into the other big thing, which definitely has my attention, Assassin's Creed. I haven't played. I played, but not all the way through the previous Assassin's Creed games. I've been interested. Here they did like a live musical performance. The Ubisoft's thing had like my live musical performance, not live, but maybe pre-recorded, but these musical
but live people.
performances, orchestra
Yeah.
in the beginning, live people playing music, and then they did the trailer and some updated of the gameplay for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which, gotta say, is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty interesting. We'll see if I end up liking it enough to play all the way through. Regardless, I'll definitely play it because this is another one with Ubisoft Plus or whatever it's called. Their games as a service. You can pay $10 for the month and you can play this for a while, which is a great way to do it. Okay, that's not all. So those are the three big things, and then we found more on the side. Sema, tell me about this next thing that you found.
Yes. So I've been practicing how to say this, but I don't think I do it right. But anyway, there's a company called Kyrgyzstan,
Kyrgyzstan.
which I've been familiar with for a while. They make YouTube videos about basically science topics.
Yeah, explainers. Yeah.
Explainers, right. And so they've decided to make a video game. And they're working together with the makers of Dwarf Romantic, which is another game that we like. And this game is going to be called Starbirds. And it looks like it's going to be a game where you go around, collect things, build things, get more things. At least that's how they describe it. So, and this is their sort of classic style of animation. This is how they animate their, like you called them, explainers. And I don't know, I'm just really kind of, this is not coming out until 2025, but I'm interested in this.
I've seen a couple other indie games like this where you're exploring these little mini asteroids, and then you go to the little mini asteroid and you do a little bit of sort of like resource collection on the asteroid, and then maybe you need a network of the asteroids to get enough of the resources. Why did this go to a different? Now it's playing a StarCraft match that I watched. Go, not this. I think that idea is clever, and it does. Their art style is represented really well. The Dwarf Romantic team made a really interesting little cozy, cerebral, chill game. Having them involved, I think, is a good fit. So we'll see. Because see, you're like placing little extractors on an asteroid, but then they start to show. They get like place little extractors. You connect them together. You place little solar panels, but the asteroids are really, really small. But then you've got potentially this network of asteroids to feed into your overall objective.
And they just called it Starbirds, not Starbirds, the year of Orion's belt, 1099, you know?
Right, exactly.
I guess that comes in 2026 when they do Starbirds.
Why does one of their asteroids look like an Among Us thing guy? It obviously is. I don't know why they did that. I thought that was interesting. So that's one.
Anyway.
And then the other one that I found on the side, which I didn't realize, is Enshrouded had an update, a content update. Enshrouded Melodies of the Mire. So they're still in early access. This is their 0.7.2.0 release, V0.7.2.0. They've opened up more areas of the map. They've opened up additional features. They've done tweaks to a bunch of the classes. This makes me want to go back and play more Enshrouded. We did a whole episode on Enshrouded, so go back and check that out if you want to hear more about that. I'm happy that they're continuing to evolve and put more content out there. This, I think, is going to be, especially as it evolves into a full game, one of the best survival exploration games out there eventually as well. It's well formed, it's well created, and it's got a lot going for it.
The story is well woven into what you do.
Yes. It flows very well. You can kind of think of Valheim, but with more story and more features around it to flesh it out in some ways. All right. Well, that was a ton. Talk. News. That's all we're talking about this week. So I think to wrap it up, what do you?
I just want to say one thing about all of this, right? Is sort of every time we bring up Microsoft and or Blizzard, I always wonder why we're not hearing anything about what's going on with mobile games, with King. Like, I realize that these events are not necessarily, the audience for them is not necessarily the mobile games audience, which is like the whole planet. But I am
Yes.
curious. Like, I actually haven't played Candy Crush in quite a while now. But I wonder, are they doing anything with the library of King games? What's going on there?
Are we just not plugged in? Is there like an E3 for mobile games that
Yeah, I wonder.
because it doesn't come across my radar. Jeff Keighley's not doing. Here's the latest Candy Crush.
Right. And I don't expect there to be huge news from Candy Crush, but like an article here and there, like
And there's got to be
Microsoft
new mobile games
decided-
coming out, and it's I think the mobile games part of the industry is bigger than this part of the industry.
Oh yeah.
Why?
The mobile
You're
mobile
right.
games is half of the gaming industry. Half of the gaming money comes from mobile games.
Now, some of like the ARPGs and stuff co-release on mobile. I will see releases from time to time where maybe it's even a mobile first. Some of these, even like MMO light games, but definitely not the
But even
Candy Crush, the clicker
unrelated,
games.
when we're looking at Starbirds and stuff, I was thinking, I wonder, I mean, this might be a good, and also, Dorfromantic, good options for having a mobile game version.
Yeah, and it's not a mobile game. Dorfromantic is not, you can't play it on mobile. Starbirds is going to be on Steam. It's not mobile. Although it seems like it seems like it should work on mobile. Yeah,
And I
mobile's
do
like
want to
such a
say too,
different-
a lot of these games, more than I've seen in the past, but maybe that's just blindness on my part, but a lot of games we talked about today and that were announced in these 3 events are coming out on console and PC at the same time.
Yes, especially the Xbox ones. Almost all the Xbox are.
Yeah, which I think is awesome.
And most of those Xbox ones I was going to try to check if any weren't. I felt like every single one after it said day 1 on Game Pass, which is huge. Huge. So, yeah, we'll see. I do like
But that's just another
PC
thing
and
that makes
console.
me wonder, about mobile, because we're talking about, all the platforms.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. All right, what are you going to be playing this week, Sema? Or what do you got a mood to after seeing all this stuff?
Well, I definitely want to watch some parts of the live stream, like the devs and stuff on the Summer Games Fest. I didn't have time to do that but there's a number of hours dedicated to people talking about the kinds of games that we didn't see any trailers for this time. And I'm interested in listening to devs think about accessibility. Also, that's one thing, but also the devs that are working on games that they call emotive or cozy or producing positive vibes or whatever. It's like, how do you create a game like that but still provide enough challenge or drama that it's interesting and compelling to play?
Yeah. And did you say there was a talk?
Yeah. There's like 4 hours of devs talking about that stuff.
Oh, interesting. I need to look at that too.
I don't know if it's any good because I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Okay,
but
you watch it and you tell me if it's any good, and then I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another release news that we didn't mention. Arc released their next map called The Center this past week. So this is now live. Our new Overlords and AIE server set now has this map added onto it. It's called The Center. I never played The Center. It's supposed to be a little tamer than Scorched Earth. I'll definitely be checking that out this week. Nazrai enabled it for us so we can go play
That
it.
looks very beautiful.
I'm still going to be playing Star Wars The Old Republic because that had a tiny update, which was the last bit of the story around the farm event that's going on. So it's 4 weeks of the farm event. We're a little over halfway through, and more of the story of what's up with the farm, because when we first got there, there's like dark side corruption. We don't know what's going on. There's a story beat to that, which sort of resolves that and explains what's going on.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing is I've been playing that event. I've been playing with Bessie.
Yeah. I'm gonna do more on Bessie. So Bessie is the
And
venture, the companion that we're
I
training up.
I'm actually to the point now with the Bessie stuff that I feel very like there's a lot of options. Like when I get a training module and I don't want to go play there, I just don't.
Right.
I buy another training module or I wait for the next day or whatever because the whole
Yeah.
thing is going to take a long time.
It's more flexible than it seems up front.
Right. And like if I'm on my character, I have a couple characters that right now they only have healing specs and I haven't developed a DPS spec for them. And if I get a support training module, it's painful. Like if Bessie's healing and I'm healing,
Yeah.
it takes forever to kill anything. And she still dies, so
Yeah.
oftentimes. But now I just look at that and I go, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I can do this
And
other
you don't
thing.
have to. And you can still
Right.
you can still even be in like on an optimal path.
Yeah,
for-
you can. Like I can say, okay, I'm going to do this combat one. And when I do, I'm just going to remember that if I'm going to do a healing one, I'm just going to do it on one of my DPS characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I could stop and make a DPS spec for her. That's another option too.
Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't be hard to do, but if I'm sitting there with my cup of coffee and I'm ready to play, you know.
Okay, I'm just looking at this. I definitely need to play Arc. They added in this new beast called a Pyromane, and it's like this rock
Ooh.
cat that's on fire, and it turns into like a little mini version of it that sits on your shoulder, and it shoots fire out of its mouth even when it's on your shoulder, and you can mount it on the fly when you're like running away and ride off after like there's like this big gigas come after.
Yeah.
What the
That looks
hell?
great.
I need one of those.
Yes, you do.
Okay, so I gotta do that. I gotta do Star Wars: The Old Republic. Gonna be playing of that this week. So Arc, Fallout 76 because Skyline Valley is now released, and I gotta
mean,
do the season on that. And then,
my favorite mountain wow is a cat that's on fire.
well, when things are on fire, that does take it to 11. It goes to 11 when it's on fire. I like
Yeah.
things that are on fire. And then I've been playing a ton of Starfield. I'm halfway through another NG Plus game, or 2/3. I'm 2/3 through NG Plus 7. So this is my 8th game, basically. So it's the base game, and then plus 7 more after that. I need to get to the 11th game. I think that the 10th one will be the last that I enter the Unity on. And then the last couple of the abilities I'll be able to pick up in the 11th game that I didn't get in the first game. But I'm still playing that because I want to try out the Trackers Alliance and I want to be ready for the fall. I got to get through the content in the summer and be ready for anything that's going to come out from the content add-on library that I might want to try out. I want to get to the 10th playthrough though before I settle into a game where then I build a bunch of outposts and connect them together. And oh, they added ammo crafting into Starfield too. So I was researching my ammo crafting skills. I love it that you can finally craft your own ammo and you're not limited to only what's available. I think there's a piece of the ammo crafting though that you still need to buy from vendors, and that makes me a little bit sad. I can't just have a big mining operation and always just have my own ammo ready to go. You need to have these diodes and blasting caps or whatever they're called to make your own ammo, which is a little disappointing. That you have to still go farm from vendors, and vendors don't have a lot of them. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing. Plenty of stuff going on all over the place. Plenty of exciting things coming this summer still. And then the lineup for 2025 is looking really cool too. Oh, maybe I'll check into on V Rising still as well. I've finished all the Act 3 bosses. I'm into Act 4 of 4 with Dracula as the top boss that I got to get to. I made my Dark Iron weapons. Too much. Too many games to play. Got to play them all. And with that, that's all for today. All the feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, and this video is on YouTube/newoverlords. Please come chat with us in our Discord. You can get to that at newoverlords.com/Discord. You can also follow on all the social networks, and we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone. Take care.